how important it is. There's a difference that makes the difference. And if you look at that quote, guys, and you'll see the quote for me struck out to me because it says, champions do not become champions when they win the event, but the hours, the weeks, the months, the years you spend preparing for it. The victorious performance itself is merely a demonstration of their championship character. So you see the person lift the trophy, get the contract for the team, hit a strike at goal and fantastic goal. But what we don't see, guys, is obviously the work that sort of goes into it. And as I mentioned before, the workbooks I've sent you, you work through that. In this book is chapter 11. This is important. There's a difference that makes a difference. Now, one of the most important things for me in my own sort of career has been wondering what makes that difference. A lot of variables, obviously, but today we're going to focus on the most efficient ways to help you achieve your goals, whatever they might be, even sport or even if it's business or academia, to be the best you can be. But one of the things that I really emphasize, guys, is find people who are where you want to be. Learn and meet people who are where you want to be and learn from them. It's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to build you confidence. It's going to give you a lot of belief and help you go to where you want to go. So I want you to think for a moment, people you can reach out to that can help you get to where you want to get to. So if you want to learn how to take a free kick better, then find someone taking a free kick better. If you want to learn what it takes to play in Europe, find someone who's playing in Europe or has played. If you want to, even if it's school, get better academic, then find someone who is. Whatever it is you want to do. And the analogy I use, if you're going to run a marathon for the first time, you wouldn't ask someone who's never run one before. You'd ask someone who's done it before. What do you eat? How do you train? What do you do? The difference makes a difference. We all have a brain with exceptional capabilities. If one person can do something, then always why not somebody else? The desire is there. So what I do when I speak at big conferences, and obviously at the moment with the pandemic and makes it difficult, obviously travel, but in years gone by, I traveled and speak at a lot of big conferences. I met people who've sort of been at the best of their field in sport and business, and I always ask them when I don't do small talk. When I sort of see someone and I get a chance to ask them if they've played in the World Cup or whatever sport it is, or they've won, or then I go straight and ask them if they won a medal. And you'll hear, if you ever get a chance to hear the radio and interview some of the world's best sports people, I like to hear what they've got to say, and I ask them questions. I find it really interesting. And over the years and doing what I do for so long, I'd like to think I've learned a thing or two about the mental side, what it takes the best you can be, having worked at the highest levels and the highest level people in the field, but also like my experience in radio and presenting. So for me, we've all got role models in childhood, with role models that impact our life. And the idea is really in sport is sort of choosing the right ones. And I want you to think, and this is sort of a bit of an exercise you can think about. If you've got pens, paper, you can do it. It's entirely up to you. You can go back over it in time, but think for a moment, the sports people have the biggest impact in your life. Think of how they influenced you. What are some of the things that have served you? Some of the behaviors, some things that have worked for you. So for example, you've had your role models, you're very young, and at some point in your career up to now, you'll have seen other people, and think about how it might be you learn to take a free kick like someone, determination someone's got. Think of the things that sort of that work for you, and also think of some things that haven't worked for you also. So for me, life is all about timing. You meet the right person, right time. It opens up possibilities if you open the possibilities. The thing is really, the more we can control our performance, the better it is. The more in control we are. And there are plenty of people out there you can learn from. Skills, capabilities that they've taken years to master. And you can, in a short time, learn from their experiences and take that learning for you. And there's a presupposition in the NLP world, possible for you, possible for me. It's just a matter of how. And it's really, really powerful. Whether people think it's true or not, and obviously there's many variables. I truly believe you can be the best you can be. So learning from people who've mastered the skills. So start thinking now about people who are and have mastered skills that you'd like to learn. And be it, like I mentioned earlier, taking a free kick or dribbling or defending. Maybe they're in sort of great shape, or the idea is really got to think, okay, how do they do it? What do they do different to me? What are they doing different to me? If your goal is to play in Europe, what are people playing in Europe? What are the footballers playing in Europe? How are they different to me? If it's to play the A-League or whatever you've got in mind, international football, even to a level higher than where you are, okay, identify people. What do they do different for you? The idea is that happens at an unconscious level. When someone's good at what they do, they generally do it without realizing it, because it's what we call unconscious, like riding a bike or driving a car. You do it, you don't know how you do it. But you think for a moment, guys, when you've been in the zone, take a moment to think about when you've been in that zone and everything's just flowing. You're playing really well. You know, you've taken a great free kick, a great penalty. It just flowed. You know, the game just flowed. You have the perfect game. Think about times, and if someone asks you, how do you play the perfect game? It's not easy to say how you did it, because we do it unconsciously. Now, talent, we all inherit a degree of talent, then it's nurtured. So we all, maybe we're more suitable to sprinting, or maybe we're more suitable to long distance. So we've all got some ability. And then what happens afterwards is our values, how much we want it, our beliefs, our behaviors, how much effort we put in, our mindset has a big influence in how well we do. And obviously reinforce experiences. So the design, and I mentioned earlier before about being the best you can be. That's the goal. Be the best you can be, but not just be the best you can be in football, be the best you can be as a person, you know, be the best you can be as an academic, be the best you can be at work, as a brother or a son, or just trying to be the best you can be. I'm not saying that, you know, life is easy, and obviously we sort of, you know, have challenges in the world, and it's not always smooth sailing, but the idea is to sort of keep striving to be the best you can be. Now, relating it back to football, think about the things that you do well. I want to take the moment, guys, to think about what you do well, because all too often we focus on what we're not doing well. I like to focus on what we do well, analyze what you do well as well. So you can write down and take a mental note what you do really well. Free kick, performing a skill, maybe you're confident, maybe you're sort of able to defend really well. And think about how you learned the capability. How did you learn the capability? How did you learn? When did you learn it? When did you learn first how to pass a ball, to take a corner, to take a free kick, and how did you learn? So the idea is that there are people out there playing at a level that you might want to play at some point in your career, and they would have been where you were, okay? Irrespective of how much talent you inherit, no one is born with that ability. They nurture it, okay? You can inherit all the ability you want in the world. If you don't nurture and train, you won't get far. And I'm not saying there's any guarantees anyone's going to make any level, because I'm not that naive. I've been in sport for a long time, and for example, in football, you know, if you've got, say, thousands of people who are going for one position, then obviously there's going to be a lot of disappointed people, but there'll be people who can make it. I think, well, why not me? And also, there's a contingency. If I don't get there, then I might be disappointed not getting to where I want to get to, but I'll be the best I can be. That's the sort of key to it, the best I can be. So to do that, what you've got to focus on is break things down. Okay, so it's no good thinking, okay, I'm here, he's there, ability-wise. I'm going to sort of, you know, get there in one leap. You incrementally get there. And like I said before, no one's born taking a free kick from 40 yards and sort of hitting the top corner. They need to practice, okay? So the idea is that at one point, the things you could do now, the things you can do now, you couldn't do. So build on that. So what I want you to do, the idea is to sort of identify a skill, a technique, a behavior, and sort of see how far I can take you. It's like, because it's fresh in the memory, the interview I did the other day on radio, was aired on radio with Paul Wade, and he, such a refreshingly honest guy in terms of a footballer. He played, I think, over 118 times for Australia, and got to mark Maradona in the sort of qualification for the World Cup, Australia, and having the conversation when you hear him speak and you think, okay, he talks about, for me, and this is my interpretation of listening to him speak, about the basics, going out there, enjoying the game. So I'm quite fortunate. I get to speak to people in them situations, and I listen and I learn over the years. And for me, it's really important you enjoy the game. It's really important you always remember why you started playing the game. But also it's really important that you get the basics right. Okay, so think about the skills, the basics. That's the key. And I want to identify an expert, someone who does what you do really well. Now, this is an exercise that's going to take time. And I hope this exercise stays with you, not just in football, but for as long as you sort of in life, and I hope you sort of use this concept where there's areas that you want to improve. You go to university sometime, if you start a business, and hopefully it sort of gives you the confidence to believe in yourself. When people say maybe you can't do something, to believe. So I need to identify experts. Now, if you can't think of experts at the moment, it's okay, you've got time, but imagine standing in for them. Okay, imagine for a moment, guys, that if you imagine for a moment that basically you had to stand in for someone in a huge game. What would you do if you had to stand in for if for example, let's use a hypothetical scenario, if there's a massive game, massive cup final or a qualifier, and a player got injured and you had to stand in for them. You had to take a free kick for them. Now imagine you've got a huge qualification game and one of the players gets injured, you get called up and you've got to play. Are you going to be ready for that? That's the key, to be ready when you get the opportunity. And to find people, if you're looking to be confident, find someone who is confident. Find someone who's doing what you want to do. Obviously, it's not just the mental side, the physical side. Now, for me, obviously, what I've done when I've worked with teams, I've looked for every variable in becoming the best footballer you can be. The first target is physical ability, is to make sure your physical ability is equal or more than the player you're going to be playing against. Because no one's going to give you their shirt, guys. If your aim is to play in Europe or wherever you decide you want to play, or the A-League, I don't know. But the point being, the shirt's on the wall. They're not going to say, here you go, take my shirt, take my number 10, take my number 7. No, not a chance. They will fight with everything for that shirt. And if you want to play international football, that's the way it is. And the higher up you go, the harder it is to get them to stay there. So what you do, and with this concept, you watch the person physically. So what I would do, and what I do with my players, with learning skill work, then we'll watch someone sequentially, like take the free kick, take the penalty, okay? And we'll look at their tone, their pace, their gesture, their posture, all these sort of things that they do unconsciously, and watch what I do, and we'll visualize it. So modeling excellence has been a big part of the work I do in top flight sport and business, and look at the results people get. It's the difference that makes the difference. I've even modeled people, organizations that weren't successful, and compare the ones that were, to find the difference. And it's always pretty minimal. It could be 1 millimeter. Sometimes mediocre and the world best is 1 millimeter. If you look at sprinting, for example, you take 1% off, say 100 meters, and you get a qualifying time, and take 1%, it's hundreds of places away, so that's not to say 1% of qualifying is mediocre, but the point I'm trying to make here is that, there's a real fine line, like a sometimes paper thin margin, guys, between success. When I first started working in football, for me, was to put programs together. So I'd look for temple of excellence. I'd look at fitness test, because that gives you a psychological boost. Because I know, for example, if I'm sort of working with, say, for, say, Berry Youth team back in the day, and we were playing against, say, I don't know, maybe a Premiership team. We had maybe a friendly game against the United, for example. I'd be looking at what are their fitness tests? What are their players doing? What level are they sprinting? Because I believe physically you can get to the same level quicker than many other variables. And I've got every confidence in the academy to do the fitness side, absolutely, and technical, because they know when you do the physical side and you're working hard. I've had many conversations with Tony and over the fitness side, and we've always bounced ideas, looking for new ways. When they travel to Europe, or whenever I've been to Australia, we talk, and we talk about this area here, the physical side. But physical is not the be-all, end-all, because you can be the fastest runner in the world. You've got to be technical, tactical. You need belief. You need confidence. All these resources, and you can learn from somebody else these resources. And for me, it was creating a template of excellence, guys. That's what I would do. Create a template of excellence for teams to be able to see what are the attributes, what makes a great player. So I'd study guys, players, and find out, okay, what are the great players eating? What are they? How are they, sleeping? What are the things that they are doing different to the other players? What is the difference? So they're the sort of things I sort of study along for many, many years and still do now. And even you hear sometimes on radio, I'll ask the people I interview, so how what sleep patterns, eating, and all these things, uncover every stone. And the most important thing, what goes through their mind. So the amount of conversations I've had with people who I've played at the highest level say, what goes through your mind? What do they believe about themselves? How do they walk, talk, think, and feel? And this module is a bit theoretical, theory. So I'm sort of giving you a theory, but there's going to be practical stuff to do. But understanding the concept is really, really helpful for you. So my goal has been and is now to get the best in the mind of the best footballers, coaches, trainers, and transfer that to the players. So my goal now with you guys, one of the goals anyway, is to sort of carry on using all my experience that I've learned over the years, but still learning now, because we always learn, and sort of pass whatever learnings I can to Tony and you guys, and hopefully it can help make a difference. Even a millimeter could make a big difference. So, and also the good thing is with these principles, they can be adapted to business, sales, just general life in general. Maybe you got exams and stuff, and football, obviously, you want to be the best football you can be. So the idea is here, we want to learn the structured experience. All that we experience in life is comprised of various elements: behavior, emotion, patterns of thinking, and the beliefs or assumptions on which those patterns are based. Different experiences are a direct result of the differences in how these elements are structured. So we're going to learn how to sort of understand how we can improve our game in the areas that we need to improve. Now, I want to take an honest, hard look at yourselves and think, okay, where do I need to improve? What do I need to get better at? What behaviors, what are my thoughts, what are my beliefs? What are the things I can learn of someone who is where I want to be? And it's obviously within those structures that we can find someone or people to help us develop our potential, best of our ability. In what we call NLP modeling, for example, so we call is mapping the underlying structure of experience that makes it possible for someone who's excellent in their field to manifest his or her particular ability. So finding out like a map what they do. And I'm going to guide you what to do. I'm going to break the task down. I know this is a little bit theoretical, but it's important to have some theory and to listen to it. But I'm going to give you some steps you can do, like working with you, to move forward. I'm going to break the steps down for you. So it's easy, and you'll enjoy sort of doing and identifying performers that will help you. If we structure experience to match that of the person who's excellent in their field, the structure will enable us to manifest to a great extent the same ability. So, okay, if someone takes a great free kick, okay, yeah, admire it, but don't be in awe of it, because you can do it too. If you work hard enough, there's a good chance you can do it too. See what happens, okay? Admire it, but think, okay, I'm not going to be in awe. I'm going to learn from that person, okay? So modeling is the process of creating maps, descriptions of experiences, human abilities. Such maps are useful because they allow us to understand the experiential structure that makes it possible for a person to manifest a specific ability. Such maps are useful because they can make it possible for anyone to have an experience ability by making those maps their own. So I want you to find a positive role model, and you don't have to do it right now and think who you want, but I want you to find a role model. This is really important that you do that. You know, at your age especially, at the age you are, a good role model in the game. I'm not saying to go out there and find someone who's sort of the perfect person in this world. Everyone makes mistakes. We all make mistakes. I'm just saying someone who's suitable for you, what you want to learn from. Okay, maybe the person who's played, you know, and I'll tell you something, guys. This is my opinion, guys. I don't know, you know, if other people share the same opinion, but there's so much resources out there. There's so much people out there that you can speak to, who are willing to speak. And in the academy as well, you've got so many resources you can speak to and think, okay, well, who can I find? Who can I speak to who's played in Europe, who's played for that team, who takes a great free kick, who, you know, does something really, really well. And speaking to them, and I want you to watch their physiology careful. So what I want you to do is watch them. So when you watch a game, you know, maybe you watch the game tonight. I want to start watching games, enjoying, but also watch the game and see what they do. Break it down and think, okay, even if you go to a game and you watch, you know, a game, if you get a chance to go to a game, you know, a live game, maybe, you know, you see someone in the league, you know, maybe the A League there might be a player there who does something well, and you go watch, just, you know, passively sitting there thinking, okay, what's this person do well? Let me just see close up. Or in training, on TV, when you watch the players in Europe. So physically you watch them and you imagine doing what they do. That'll help you watching them. But then there's a point you need to know a bit more mentally. So each of us has a particular set of strategies to enable us to function effectively with performance skills and capabilities. So people, you know, for driving, it's unconscious, you know, cooking, playing sports, presentations, business. So the mind can do so many things. So one thing is watching persons physically, but then also mentally. Okay. And I mentioned earlier before, because it's unconscious, like it's me asking you, how'd you learn to drive or ride a bike? It's unconscious. Okay. And the idea is really, I'm going to give you a set of questions that we're going to do and email you that are exclusive to this academy, because I'm here to support this academy best I can. And I've already been doing this for a long time with Tony. He's probably mentioned it before, you know, the sort of things to sort of ask players, and Tony's been around players at the very highest level for a long time now, and his travels and coaches. I can assure you now, when Tony meets up with a player who's playing at the highest level with a coach, he'll be getting into their mind. Yeah, you have to enjoy yourself, and you know, socially it's great to meet people, but he'll be understanding. He wants to know. Okay, it's important to do that. So when you ask people, how'd you get that good? They don't know, because it's unconscious. So the idea is to sort of ask them a series of questions. I'll email you, it'll really help you. Then you can ask yourself the same questions and see where you are different to them. Okay, where you are different to them is really interesting. And sometimes people know what you're doing. You know, you ask them and they sort of know about this sort of stuff, and you know, and that's okay. I've had coaches say to me, I've spoken to, you know, World Cup winning, I was speaking at a conference one time. There was a World Cup winning rugby coach, and I started asking him some of these questions, and he goes, "You're asking me, you know, these mental skills questions." I think, well, yeah, I've got, you know, I'm presenting and he's presenting. I said, here's my chance. There's no small talk. I need to know. And he was fine. I understand that, which is key. And you'll see that in the radio interviews I do. Obviously, the main aim is that, in the radio is to sort of share ideas and increase participation in the sport and awareness. But equally in saying, I sometimes throw a few questions in, even if it's off the air, just to sort of find out, what goes through their mind. So the key steps to this, guys, and this is just a sort of insight, there's a lot of work to do, which most of it will be done in the background by myself and sort of Tony. But the idea is here, imagine being the expert you identified. That's the first thing you need to do. Identify the expert, and you imagine stepping in for them. You're still you. It's not sort of, you're still the person you are. It's just standing in. So standing in for that player to take a free kick. If you had to play that game, you're standing for that player. Or maybe what skills they have that you'd like to have. Okay. What you do then is you close your eyes and visualize the person in action, like a movie. And if you want to do it now, you can do. You can do it later on. But just imagine someone who takes a great free kick, a great defender, goalkeeper, and imagine seeing them like on a TV screen. And if you had to stand in for them, if it's easy to close your eyes, you can do, and watch it like a film. See how they look, how they use their body, how they use their posture, how they stand, how they walk. Pay close attention, how they talk, what they say, how they say it. Imagine standing in for them, and that we can do. But to build on that, what we need to do is gather information with respect to what he or she is thinking, believing, because you can see it and you need the belief too. What do they believe? I've seen sports people who believe, do you believe that you should be in that team? That's a huge difference. I've seen performers who literally in the dressing room, I'm not saying be arrogant, but be confident. It's like they belong. They're there. I'm not saying, to sort of be out there, but they believe. They believe that shirt is there for them. It's their shirt. It's there. The number 10 is for them. The 7's for them. Whatever they believe. And the idea is to get an insight into what they believe. Okay. And it's ironic, really, because sometimes you see in training, there's not a lot of difference between certain players. But belief is a huge thing. And that's something we talked about in the seminar before, and we'll talk about again. And you can sort of ask yourself these questions as well. Contrast and comparison of examples to identify structural patterns, feasibility. So you see what you see. So you step into role model's place and see yourself conducting the skill, behavior, ability, watch yourself do it, and imagine you're standing in for them. And then you sort of refine that. And these are the sort of steps that you do. So you step inside the picture, you're in there, and you're doing what they do. You imagine what's it feel like, what do you hear, what do you see. So that's a big part of it. Okay, so I'm going to sort of take through this briefly, and on top of that, there's some questions that you can ask as well that you need to ask. I'm going to take you through these steps, guys, and I'm going to go through the exercise pretty briefly. So I'm mindful of time, and I'm going to send you some stuff. So you're comfortable closing eyes, you can do. Okay. And I want you to now focus on a skill that you need to improve, or something you'd like to do. And now you can sort of close your eyes and visualize someone who's doing it really, really well, like watching a movie in your mind. See how they look, how they use their body, how they use their posture. Pay close attention, hear how they talk, what they say, how they say it. And now imagine thinking what they think, believing what they believe when they take the free kick or they step out for that big game. Okay, use contrast and comparison examples. So now what I want you to do is imagine now stepping in for the role model and see yourself doing what they do. You're watching yourself like you'd be watching the role model doing what they do, exactly the same. And if you think any negativity that goes into your mind, your mind's playing tricks on you, saying you'll never do it, just let them go and focus on the skill and adjust it exactly like you need it, you want it to. So you mentally step in the picture and see yourself like on a screen in the here and now. You're not watching yourself. Imagine kicking the free kick in the here and now, just like the model does, of excellence. You're defending, or whatever it is that you want to learn or do or play the game. You know, it's the skills, capabilities, how you feel, the posture, what you hear. And imagine future situations where you have to implement these skills. Games, you're the star of the film and you make any adjustments necessary, and sort of come back to the here and now in your own time and place. And now what I want you to do is, okay, embed that in your mind. And this is what I want to keep doing, guys. Whenever you need to improve on something or you want to make something better, see someone who does what you do really, really well, and imagine stepping in for them. Even if you watch TV and you see someone take a really good free kick, imagine you stepping in for them, okay? Imagine you stepping in for them, or if you're sort of watching a live game, just imagine if I'm standing for them, what would I do? And just follow the mechanical movement. I'm not suggesting, by the way, guys, that you become a copy of the expert. You're always going to be unique. There's only one you in the world. It's just an opportunity for you to implement some learnings. And we do this automatically anyway, but you can do it consciously. Be aware of that. And the questions you can ask, guys, are sort of mindful of time, and I will email you, and this will be recorded. You'll have the questions you can ask, but I've sort of done this for you. I've narrowed it down for you, so you don't have to sort of hit with too much theory, but I've narrowed the questions you want to ask, which will really help you. If you find a role model, okay, if you find a role model, then you can ask them these questions. Who was your inspiration? How do they inspire you? Where and when do you perform your skill or capability that they do really well? What specifically do you do step by step? If it's a good free kick or penalty or performance, if you're going to teach me how to do it, what would you ask me to do? Okay, how did you learn this? What do you believe about yourself when you're doing this? Do you have a personal vision when you're doing this? How do you know you're good at this? What emotional state and physical state you're in when you do this? What happened for you to be good at this? What are you aiming to achieve when you do what you do? And who else do you recommend I speak to? And then you can also ask yourself the same questions as the ones you asked the role model, and we can start to focus on areas that you may need to improve. Of course, it's more useful if you can ask the person in question the questions live, absolutely. But if not, then you can maybe listen in and hear interviews and things like that. This is about the difference that makes a difference. If it's hard to find anyone, just read magazines, YouTube, wherever you can find the information necessary. As I mentioned earlier, the expert didn't wake up one morning and be excellent at the free kick or anything that they do. They practice mentally, physically, they hired coaches, trainers. It took a long time, and you can do all those things too. The power of modeling is immense. To conclude this, because we've sort of got a minute or so to conclude, there's a time years ago, sort of really inspiring story one time. There was a time years ago, there's a young player I was working with, and one of the issues he had was his height. He was in stature, height, and he thought that was going to hold him back, his career. And I mentioned for him to read a book. It was an autobiography by Roy Keane, and he's one of the greatest midfielders of his generation, by the way. And I remember in the book, because I'd read the book as well, he talked about his height might have been an issue, or at least he thought so. And the player I recommended to read, the player played at Bury in the youth team. The player I recommended read Roy Keane's autobiography, told me years ago, it made a big impact on him. So it helped him overcome beliefs that he had that he might not be able to make it as a footballer. That would be a turning point. I actually interviewed the lad who read the book, and that's a really useful thing to do, like read autobiographies of books, and that'll help you learn about the beliefs, the trials, the tribulations players go for, because you sort of see the finished article out there, and And one time, actually, when we played against, was Berry Youth versus Man United Youth, and we sort of played against, and it was Roy Keane came out, and I mentioned to Roy Keane, actually, I said, I read your book, Roy, and I've told players who talk about themselves, from a physical stature point of view, if they say that they might not be tall enough to play, to read your book, and he didn't say anything to that, but I thought I'd mention it, to be fair, to him, because I found the book really interesting, and I tell other players too. So I say read books and that sort of stuff. So also mindful of time, guys. Sort of last a few seconds, then you got to out there and train. It's been a great session, guys. There's sort of more to it than what we've covered now. I'll sort of talk you through it. We're working together, for the long haul anyway here. So have a great week, guys. Great working with you. And we go again next week. Have a fantastic week, guys. Go out there and give it your best shot.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.